everybody, welcome back to Creating Hanley. My name is Kimberly here at Creating Hanley, and in today's episode, we are making this quilt block called Talkin Turkey. Alright, it is from this book, 1000 Blocks Quilt Makers, as are all of my star blocks in 2025. All of my star blocks in 2025, so this one's Talkin Turkey from this book, are from this book. So my second Sew a Year Full of Stars in 2025 are all from batik fabrics. I'm using all batiks, all the stars from this book. Now, Talkin Turkey, if you have the book, is on 387. Right here. Okay, this one right here. Talkin Turkey. And those are the measurements. 12 rectangles, letter A, 2 inches by 3.5. 4 squares, B, 2 by 2. 4 squares, C, 2 and, I don't know what that is. 2 5/8 squared. 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. Those are all cream prints and tone-on tones. Okay? Right there. And I kind of made some notes in here. I put the outside corners, the inside square, and the inside square. And now you have red prints and red tone-on tones. So you have the creams, and then you have the reds, okay? That looks more like browns to me, but that's the book. So, and then the sorted reds, they're going to be very similar. 16 squares, letter B, 2 by 2. 5 squares, letter C, 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. Is that right? Yeah. And then now you have your 1 inch to 1 3/4 inch wide strips. This right here, those strips, watch the previous 2 videos. One is paper foundation and one is fusible foundation. Those are called stitch and flip. The how-to stitch and flip. Paper and or fusible foundation. What did I call those? Stitch and flip, paper foundation, how to, something like that. Yeah. So those are the videos. Watch. You don't have to watch both. One or the other is fine. And then this one says foundation paper because that is the so watch the video on how to do a paper foundation, but this, it says 5 3/8, is that right? 2 squares, 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. Now in that video, I use a 6-inch square. I suggest using the 6-inch square. That's really going to come in handy when we have to square it up. So use a little bit bigger square here. And yeah, I want bigger than 5.5. Even 6 inches, I would do that, okay? So, the directions are here in the book. This is the stitch and flip to make flying geese, and these are the flying geese right here, right there. So you're going to make a bunch of those flying geese, and that's how you do it. This is kind of them showing you how to do the paper piecing. I watched the video. I do a better job. If you've never did the stitch and flip or used paper foundation or even fusible foundation, if you're new to that, watch those videos. And you can fast forward through some of it anyway. So if you're not familiar with that, then watch the videos. If you are familiar, then you already know how to do this and just do your thing. But use a 6-inch square. I highly recommend it because we're definitely going to trim down. And this is how they put it together. So this is what we are going to do today. We are going to do this on film. So this is going to be 2 parts because this is going to be long. And because I don't really edit, it's going to be a little bit long. So, because I do this in real time, like I want to show you how long it's going to take. Sometimes mistakes happen. And also, in the previous videos, 1 or 2 of them, I was having trouble with the bobbin. So, I was having trouble with this bobbin. It wasn't cutting. properly. Well, I took my machine apart and it was dirty. It was so dusty. So I had to clean the crap out of this machine. And once I cleaned it out, boom, no more issues. So take care of your machine. And also, when you do that paper foundation piecing, you are going to be sewing through paper. So you're going to be sewing through 2 layers of fabric plus paper, like paper. So your needle down here is going to get dull. So I would suggest, if you decide to do the paper foundation, do all that first and then change your needle, because your needle's going to get dull and it's not going to be good for the rest of your project. So even if you have a dull, I would say maybe if you have like a needle you've been using for a really long time, keep that in, do all your paper foundation piecing, and then once you're done with that, change the needle. You have a fresh needle. Clean your machine. What else? I don't know. Make sure all your bobbins are round, because in the paper foundation, I had very low bobbin. So I made sure in my bobbin here, I got a full bobbin. And the thing, this thread up here is not full, so that's getting a little low. But anyway, wow, I'm just talking away here, so let's get to sewing. Now, so this is what we're gonna make, but let's look at the back of this. So you can tell this is the fusible foundation that I used, and this was the paper piecing, or the paper foundation. I say paper piecing. The paper foundation that I used. So I used 2 paper foundation pieces and 2 fusible foundation pieces. Now I used these opposite on purpose because because this adds bulk. This is heavier. These little pieces right here, these corner triangles, they are heavier. You could actually see in the video, these are heavier than the rest of the quilt block. So I really wanted them opposite. It's kind of like lug nuts on your car. Like you screw in opposites first. You don't screw the same all the way around. You don't want the weight like heavy on one side and lighter on the other. So just do opposites. If you're gonna practice and kind of like play with it like I did, do that. Okay, so that's the back. And this is what your quilt block is going to look like. Something like this. Now, I did not use the exact same colors that they did in the book, but I did use the cream, the off-white, the cream tone-on tones, and I used more like fall colors because Talkin Turkey, right? We're going to put this in for November, but we're doing it right now. So I thought that was cute. Now, it looks really complicated. And when I looked at this picture in the book, I thought, oh my God, that's so complicated. And let me tell you what, the only complicated part of that, see that? The only complicated part of that was the cutting, all of the cutting. And I cut enough for 2 blocks. So I sew one for myself to see how I put it together. And then I make one on live on film for you. Okay? So that's that. Other than that, it's really relatively easy. So once you do all your stitch and flips, once you do these corners, the only other more difficult part is to make these flying geese. And we did this in a previous video. In fact, it was the LOVE video. We did a big, if I remember right, it's 3.5 inch by 6.5 inch flying geese. So these little rectangles here are 2 inch by 3.5 inch. So they're smaller, but it's the same concept. So if you've never done this stitch and flip before, go back and look at that LOVE, that love video. Let's get to it, okay? Enough talking. Let's go. Talkin Turkey. Enough talking turkey. Let's go. Okay. So on my pizza slice here, my pizza tray, I have all of my let's take it down here to the surface. So I have all of my blocks cut that I'm going to need, and I labeled them with little stickies, little labels, and I just wrote in the letter that was in the book. And then these are already finished, so these are done. That's going to be easy to put in. So all I need to make my flying geese are these, cream, their letter A, and then I need these, red, or, you know, whatever color, in B. So you get your cream and then your color. It doesn't have to be in the same color as in the books. It doesn't have to be fall colors. It could be whatever color you want. Just the title of the block is Talkin Turkey. So you're going to use your B's in colors and A's in cream. So let me show you how to do that. You already know how to do these. So, and then you just trim them in half, okay? So that the fabric strips are going up and down like that, okay? Not like this, but like that. Okay. Set those aside. Now, the other blocks I need from here are these. And then I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to make a few of these. And then I think that might be it for this video, because it's going to get a little long. And then what I'll do is once I have all the flying geese made, we'll stop. And then we'll put it together in the next video, because I think that'll make more sense. All right. Not more sense, but I don't know. Anyway, this is another stitch and flip, but it's for a flying geese. So let's get to it. Now, it's going to be the same way as I showed you in the previous video. If you want to, now I'm using all batiks. Now remember, batiks, sometimes you can't tell between the front and the back. So just use whatever looks good for you. The other thing is you don't have to wait until you put your fabric on, you know, in place before you do these lines, before you draw these lines. You can actually just take your pile and just draw lines, you know, like if you wanted to just pre-draw your lines on all of your little 2-inch squares, then have at it. Like, that's fine. You can do, I don't even know which is the front and back on here. Okay, we're gonna do this. So if you just wanted to take a couple minutes and draw all your lines, that is super cool. I'm not gonna do all that on camera, but you can just see, I take my pencil tip and I place it right on the edge. And then I take my pencil tip over here, place it on the edge, and make sure that this straight edge is lined up. And try not to stretch the fabric, because your fabric can easily get stretched at this point. Okay? And then so, same thing, line up there, and then line up here. Make sure it didn't shift, and then draw your line. So you can do that for all of these, okay? This whole pile. So let's just do a few of these to make the flying geese. So take it over to your machine. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I'm gonna try to make sure you can see that. Okay. Now I'm gonna do another thing for beginners. A little tip here for beginners. If you take the corner into the machine like this, like into your feed dogs like this, there's a good chance that this corner is going to get sucked down into these feed dogs here. And then it's going to jam in your machine, and you do not want that. So one way to combat that is, if you did want to start here, you take a leader. You take some scrap fabric and just place it there and then start sewing. And then it already has like oomph, like it has, I don't know, like a runway or something. And then it just feeds in, and it should not get stuck and jammed up in there. That's one way. The second way is to take the flat edge. So see how this is a nice long flat edge? You take that flat edge and then you align it up so that your needle is directly on that line, okay? Now this is a straight flat edge. You can see all this extra fabric. Maybe you can, maybe you can't with the lights. All this extra fabric. If I turn that off, is that going to help? Yeah. If I turn that light off, that helps. You see that. So I line that up and I make sure my needle is right there on that line or a little bit. So you actually want to, again, for beginners, I'm going to show you. So you can see this line right here. This is the line that I'm going to sew on, except I'm going to sew a little bit to the, maybe call this the outside of that line, because when I flip this over, and I've said this many times before, and especially on that LOVE video, when you flip that over, that fabric, or that thread, I'm sorry, the thread has mass. So when you fold this over, your square might be a little bit short. So you want to make sure that your scant line, you're like right to the, I'm going to say the outside, because this is the outside. Whoops, I'm off camera there. The outside. So you want to sew just a little bit to the outside of, well, let me show you a little closer, a little bit to the outside of that line. Okay? Now, I said that a gazillion times. I'm sure somebody's going to screw that up. Because what we're doing is we're replacing this corner. Again, I've said this before. So even if you want to fold it in half like this, and then so you have a crease that you can follow that crease again, but you're going to be on the outside of that. And so you can visualize, this is the corner, this is the cream, so this is the corner that we are replacing with a color. Is this wasteful? A little bit, yes, because all this fabric right here is going to be cut off. So I've said this I've said this already in another video. Okay, so I'm just reiterating, and if you've already watched that video, you're bored right now, and I do apologize. But let's get started on this, okay? So I'm going to start right here on that flat edge. And so just a little bit to the inside of that line. And then I'll show you right here. See, I cleaned up the machine and it cut perfectly. Okay, so you can see how I cut to the inside of that line. Yeah? Now that might actually be a little bit too far off that line. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. If I don't shake. Here's the line right there. Right there. Okay? And that thread is just a little bit below. That's great. Because when I fold this fabric over, I want to make sure that I'm replacing that corner like very specifically. Okay? Because it needs to be in the same, it needs to cover the same fabric as what this is. This is the original rectangle. This is the original block. So I want to make sure that this, the new fabric, is in the same measurement. Okay? Yeah, that looks right. Awesome. Now you can iron this if you want, or you can just finger press it, whatever works for you. What I'm going to do is add another stitch line, because I'm going to save this little corner. And this is going to become a tiny, super tiny square. Just like that. Half square, triangle, square. Okay? Now this goes in my crumb box. Maybe I'll do another video on this. Yep, I think I will, because I love these things. So I'll do a separate video on this. Is this part of this project? No. So that goes away. Now I open this up, and I'm going to trim off this thread, extra thread. And then I take it over to my iron right here, and I just press it open. Okay, maybe a little bit more. If you want to use steam, go ahead. I just have a dry iron, and that presses that in place. Okay, that is my new rectangle. Now my next my next 2-inch square is going to go on this side. All right, so let's use a different color. Maybe let's use red. This red. Now, I already drew this line, so I have to make sure that this is in the same angle. Or it's going to be the opposite angle. If you're unsure, just fold on that line to see, visualize that it makes that flying geese. And it does. So that's good. Now this little corner over here is going to overhang. And that's why you have to do one at a time. You can't do both. And that's why I recommend chopping off this corner first. You can leave it on, but now there's 3 layers of fabric there. I wouldn't do that. I can't tell you what, I guess I can tell you what to do. I wouldn't do that. Okay? So make sure you line this up, this edge and this edge perfectly, because it should line up exactly to replace that edge. And now, same thing here. If you want to start with the flat edge, now your fabric is going to go the opposite way. If you want to start with the corner, now your corner is going into the feed dogs. I would suggest starting with a leader, like so, and then line up your fabric so that just the needle is right to the outside of that line, right off the edge, like so, and trim the leader off. And you can see, maybe you can see on this red where the pencil line drawn is. Yep, and the thread. Good. Now I'm simply folding this over, and so what I'm doing is double checking. Like, did I do that right? Yes, I did. I did that right. So now I can trim this off. If this was wrong, then you pick out this line that you just sewed, get rid of that thread, and then replace your thing, and then sew a better line, okay? That's why you take this extra step, just to make sure everything is lined up perfectly, okay? Otherwise, you get wonkiness, and, a lot of my stuff is wonky, because I do it fast, and I just, throw it on there. But I am going to do this extra step so that I get a half square, an inch and a half or an inch half square triangle block. So this is postage stamp right here. Postage stamp crumb, half square triangle block. All right. Now that goes in this crumb box. Open this up. Blammo. Now you have your flying goose. Now, the reason why you can't make a lot of these, the 16, make 16 flying geese at one time thing, is because you have different colors. We're using it's really scrappy here, okay? So that's why you can't do a whole bunch at one time. That's why you have to do it in this method. There's other methods to make flying geese, but we can't do those because we have to kind of like mix and match our fabrics. Okay? Take the next one. We'll do one more, unless you need to see 2. But we'll do one more. Place this here. I'll speed it up for you. there you go. Okay. Did you guys need to see that again? Okay, seriously, let's do one more. Seriously, one more. All right, so we'll do this. And let's throw this on here. No, I want that to show. Okay. Now remember, this is for our Talkin Turkey block. And maybe let's do this color, this peach. Oh, I should probably draw a line. You don't necessarily have to. Like, if you're really good, you could probably just eyeball it. But I don't want to risk it right now, because everything I do is usually wonky anyway. So I'm just going to try to make sure that I get as pretty accurate as possible. Uh-oh, that's way off the line. Okay, now I'll show you what I do when you do, when you do your stitch way off the line. I'll show you how this works. Okay, so now you can really see that on the peach. See how I sewed way off the, and I cut way too close to that. I cut way too close to that stitch line anyway. But I sewed way off that line. Now, you can leave this if you want to. Just simply fold on the line and you'll be okay. So you can fold on the line, because this is going into a quilt block, so you're going to be quilting over that. You can't even see that. So what I did was I folded on that line, folded that over. And then, so that made a block. Now what I can do is square this up. Take my ruler and square it up. So just take, take your ruler, and it should be a 3.5 inch by 2 inch block. Okay, 3.5 inch by 2 inch block. So if there's any overhang here, you can just trim that off. Or the other thing you can do simply is sew a better line. So yeah, if you screw that up, just sew a better line. You don't have to pick out the old one, just leave that there and then just sew a second line and a little bit closer, and there you go. See how the second line is closer to the pencil drawing? And then I just fold that over, and that actually is much better. Okay, so iron that open and do that a bunch more times. I think it's 8. Is it 8? 2, 4, 6, 8. I think there's 8. 2 per side. There's 8. Should be 8 flying geese with variety of corners. Okay, so your stitch and flips. All right. That's enough for this video. Just do that. Make sure you do your foundations, your triangles here. So try the paper and the Pellon if you want to. You don't actually have to buy the fusible. If you don't have it, just do the paper and watch that video. If you don't want to buy more stuff and you actually don't have any, don't do it. Not a big deal, because I showed you this way too. So you got a couple different ways to do it. And do these, the stitch and flip for flying geese. Once you have these made, we're going to put these together in the next video. I'll show you how to put everything together to make the final Talkin Turkey. All right, you guys. Have fun making those. And I'll see you on this video to complete this. Bye for now.